And hello, recovery fan. Welcome to another episode of the Unashamed Recovery podcast. The last episode that you heard, we talked about codependency, what it was like, and what we can do to overcome that cycle of codependency. This episode, we have a good friend coming on sharing a testimony, going to talk about the pit of addiction that he was brought out of and what he's doing now. And with that, roll that intro.
In 3, 2, 1.
The Unashamed Recovery Podcast.
The Unashamed Recovery Podcast with Josh and Drew starts now.
Here at the Unashamed Recovery Podcast, we believe there is healing in the story of our scars, and that it is okay to not be okay.
It is our sole mission to break the shame and stigma of addiction by telling real stories by real people who have to deal with real struggles.
And with that being said, let's meet today's guest. Today's guest is a good friend of mine and Drew's. He's the ministry leader of Restoring the Broken. He's a sushi connoisseur. His name is Brent Tank Gilbert. Brent Tank, Mr. Gilbert, thank you for being here, brother.
Hey, good to be here. Good to be here.
Guys, if y'all could see Tank, he looks like the meanest person in the world, and he couldn't be farther from that. Tank has become a really good friend of mine over this last year, and he's got a heart of gold for the recovery community, and it's amazing at how the Unashamed Recovery Podcast, we've come into existence, kind of supporting the Mississippi recovery community, and it's an honor to do so because we get to meet people like Tank who are on the front lines, grinding it out on the recovery communities here in Mississippi. So, Tank, before we get started, before we dive into your testimony, I got to know, what's your favorite sushi? I know you got one. What is it?
I would have to say it's the Crazy Crab Roll at Tokyo.
I'm gonna have to go with the Tornado Roll. Tornado Roll is probably my favorite. It's got the little crunchy tuna on the top of it.
Yeah, I like the crunchy.
Oh yeah. Got a little spice to it.
To be honest, any sushi is my favorite. I was a sushi champion at Sake Cafe in Laurel. There, they had a competition one time. We had this huge sushi roll, and you had to eat it under 15 minutes. And if you did, it was free. I smashed it out in less than 8 minutes and asked them if I could do it again, and they said no. But they put my picture on the wall, so I was the champion. So there's that.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
And see, I had to ask because I know when we were scheduling me coming down to speak, I know we were trying our best to go eat sushi. It just never happened. So I had to ask because
yes.
I wanted to know. And my next question, we're going to dive into this, but what's your favorite worship song right now that's getting you through these, your daily recovery journey? What worship songs helping get you through 24 hours?
Without a doubt, Miracle Power, man.
Ooh.
I tell you what, I get chills right now just thinking about it because I don't know. It's just man, that song just does it for me right now. I mean,
talk with anybody in recovery, and they got a favorite worship song.
Oh yeah.
What's yours, Josh?
Mine right now is it's the new one that Mercy Me just released out. Then Christ Came Through.
I've got two. One's Million Little Miracles. That's hands down it. And then you've got Take Me Back by Dante Bowe.
I haven't heard that one.
That one's a good one.
Right, check that out.
Yep. All right. So that's all out of the way. So, Tank.
Yeah.
Let's start at the beginning of your story. What does chapter 1 look like for Tank's story? Where does your story start?
Man, I grew up in a small community of North Jones County called the Matthews community. And I was raised in church. My grandfather, he was a deacon of the church. I mean, every time the doors opened, we were there. In our community, there was people, of course, that drank, stuff like that, and it was around me. It was always around me. And but I like to tell people when I'm giving my testimony, like many others, is full of 3 C's, and that's choices, chances, and change. And I knew right from wrong, but I made those choices when I was young that determined my addiction. And addiction don't discriminate. I mean, you can be brought up in church, you can be brought up and sheltered, whatever it is, whatever the case may be. Addiction don't discriminate. But yeah, like I said, I grew up in a church environment, godly parents, godly grandparents, man. And when my parents, they divorced at when I was about 12, going on 13, and that was kind of a critical time in my life. My dad was doing his own thing. I was living with him, and my mom, she moved off, and I just I started making those choices.
So was that divorce? Was that the pivotal moment?
No, I not the divorce whatsoever. Because at the time in my life, if I'm being honest and transparent, me and my mom didn't get along anyway. We didn't have a very healthy relationship at all. So it was kind of like that divorce was actually kind of a relief to me. But it was just I was going into high school, and I started hanging around people instead of people my age. I was hanging around seniors and stuff like that. And my dad, he was getting back on the dating scene, and so when he was going dating, I was going out and partying, and that's actually how I got the name Tank. I was partying with a bunch of seniors, drinking, and man, I would drink a lot, and I've always been a big fella. And I had one tell me, he said, "Man, you're a big fella, and you hold a lot of fluids. We're gonna call you Tank." and it stuck with me ever since. But people, when I tell people that, they're like, "But that's not you anymore. You're not that person anymore. So why do you still go by that name?" And I said, well, that Tank, he died. I said, I'm now a tank in God's army. You know what I'm saying? When I was delivered, he made me a new tank. You know what I'm saying? I'm not that old tank anymore.
That's awesome. So, for you going in and getting involved in high school and all that, so what was that drug of choice that really snatched you? What was your lure?
Everybody says marijuana is the gateway drug. And I would like to say, sure it is, but like I said, it was choices. I mean, I started smoking weed when I was 13, and then as I got older, I just kept trying. I had that addictive personality. I mean, the first time I smoked a cigarette, I didn't call for anything. I was like, "Hey, I like this." I mean, and that was a red flag that I seen later on in life. Everything I tried, I liked it, and it just went on from there. So, of course, someone, "Hey, you want to try this?" Sure. I done everything except for stick a needle in my arm. And when I was 17 or 18 there, I was introduced to crystal meth for the first time. And I was at a party, and some guys, we went in the back room, and they had a piece of foil, and, "You want to try this?" "Sure." "Well, what is it?" And they told me. I was like, "Okay." And I was instantly hooked. I didn't care. I was still smoking weed and stuff, but I didn't care about that. I was still drinking. I didn't really care about that. And I could get that. That was no problem. But my sole mission became to get that meth and chasing that high. And that really started leading down the destructive path.
Well, I think right there is a perfect chance for us to take a small break to hear a word from our sponsor. Today's episode is sponsored by D's Automotive. Unashamed Recovery podcast is fortunate that we are heard around the world in over 42 countries. But we also have a huge local audience here in the home state of Mississippi. And D's Automotive is a proud sponsor of Unashamed Recovery podcast. They are serving the East Mississippi community, and D's has been serving the East Mississippi community and Meridian for over 42 years. And that is for your entire complete car care service and towing and car unlocks. And that is D's Automotive. And they're over at 5024 Poplar Springs Drive, 5024 Poplar Springs Drive. And you can give them a call, 601-482-1800. And when you go over there, go see Miss Jeannie, Mike, and the boys, and tell them that Josh and Drew sent you. Now, if you're still here with us, let's get back to the testimony. We're sitting here today with Tank of Restoring the Broken. Tank, that crystal meth, as you were getting into it, how did it compare with the other stuff that you had tried before? Was it kind of this, like, was like, oh man, this is it? Or was it kind of like, this ain't my thing?
There was no comparison. It was the thing. Like I said, the weed and the pills and the cocaine and all that was just small stuff that was just easy to get, and it seemed like it was around all the time. This became like that thing that I was just chasing all the time, and didn't realize how destructive it was in my life, and didn't see what it was doing to me. And man, by the time I was 19, 20 years old, I was a full-blown, I'm talking about addict. I was doing everything. And my addiction, I didn't just go to one thing. I was doing it all.
So was this after the divorce, correct?
Yeah, this is after my parents' divorce. This is on when I'm 17, 18, 19 years old. Right. Is when I got full-fledged into crystal meth.
So let me ask you this. Were you trying to fill a hole at that point in time, like a void almost?
No, I was just trying to get high. I wasn't really trying to cover up. Now, I had an abusive mother. Me and my brother didn't have a good relationship. And I'm sure a lot of my trauma from that helped with my addiction. It was just something to do that just felt, it made me something. Right. I always felt like I wasn't something.
So is it almost like an acceptance thing?
Yes, it was kind of it made me feel indestructible, made me feel, like I was just invincible. I was bulletproof.
Only because I know, I went through the progression from marijuana all the way up until meth, except for I was one of those people who ended up sticking a needle in my arm. But, and I always wondered how I got that far. But then, kind of looking into it now, you can kind of understand that, there was so much extra trauma, but then you don't realize that you're trying to fill voids, and then you're trying to find acceptance and love and everything else just by the things that you were putting yourself through. It was just like, well, I'm accepted and I love this because I don't have to feel anything. Yeah. You know what I mean? And that numbing.
Oh, yeah.
That was the thing. Inevitably, that's what I was chasing, didn't even know. Yeah. Was just not feeling. Yeah.
I didn't, it numbed out, because I was always a big kid. It numbed out the shame of that. It numbed out I was always, how can I put this? I always felt like I wasn't enough in a lot of areas of my life, and it made me feel like I was. It really did. Like I said, it made me feel like I was just invincible, and it gave me a false confidence is what it did.
Well, let me ask you this: with the crystal meth use and all that, so was that rock bottom, or was there?
Oh no!
Was there more after that?
There's more.
See, I've known some people that once they hit that crystal meth point, that's rock bottom. Yeah. So yours continues on down.
Oh yeah, we're just at the tip of the iceberg. So I lived that life for 3 years there like that, just my every day was a party. I was, and I know the people out there can't see this, I'm doing air quotations when I say this. I was an, how do you say it? A functioning addict. I was a functioning addict, I held a job. By this time I had moved out on my own. I couldn't live with my parents no more because I was crazy. And, so I got to a point and I was like, you know what? Living like that and having people at my house all the time and just every day for 3 years there, nonstop, every day was a party. It was all the time something going on. I got tired of that. I was like, I'm tired of this. And I made a deal with God. I said, God, if you'll put somebody in my life where I'll quit all this, just where I can get away from all this and escape, put somebody in my life. And I met which is now my wife. And the thing about that is me and her dad and her brothers all were in addiction together. We partied together. I didn't even know she existed until I was over there one day and she came to the door and I'm like, who is that? And and I was like, God has put her in my life. And so we started talking, we started dating, we got together, and I had to have that conversation with her dad. I'm like, look, I'm with your daughter now. I'm done with all this stuff. And she got pregnant with our son, and I quit everything cold turkey. I was like, I made a deal with God. I'm done with this. I mean, I quit smoking cigarettes, everything. Just boom, it was just nothing. And I think it was the shock of I've got a child on the way, helped me do that. But as soon as our son was born, and I'm 21, 22 years old now when this happens, as soon as he was born, I started dabbling back. I got comfortable, and I felt, okay, I can dabble a little bit. And that dabbling turned into 10 times as bad as I was the first time, back doing all the same stuff over and over again, and plus hiding it from her. She knew I smoked a little weed. She knew I drink. She didn't know any of the other stuff. She didn't know I was selling. She didn't know I was bringing duffel bags and hiding them out in the woods, and I was dealing it as well as using it. And
so that right there makes the selling chickens a whole lot funnier.
Oh yes,
because
yes.
You've gone from selling drugs. You made a post. It's been a while back.
Yes.
Of you were meeting somebody in a parking lot.
Yes.
With a chicken in a cage.
Yes. I went from slinging dope in the hospital parking lot to selling chickens in the high school parking lot. You know, that's where God brought me from. You know, and I made a joke. I made light. I wasn't making a joke about. You know, I wasn't. Never would I. You know, make a joke about addiction. But it was just I was making light of where God had brought me from, because I used to be that person that was meeting people in the parking lot selling dope, and then I was that person. But now I'm meeting them in there doing chicken deals, because I raise chickens, and man, that's one of the best things ever. But
Man,
Not the chicken dealer.
Yes, I have calmed down on that too, because and me and Josh were talking about this earlier. You have to watch out, because you can replace things and they can become an addiction. And I realized my chicken dealing was becoming an addiction. I felt that sense of, oh man, I'm the man here. You know, I had to back off. But no, but back to my story there. Then my wife got pregnant with our daughter, and I'm full blown. It's getting bad now. When she was in the hospital giving birth to our daughter, I was in there long enough to see my daughter come out of the womb. I cut the cord, and I went right back out. I was going to different bathrooms in the hospital and smoking dope. I was going out in the parking lot and selling it. And this was in October. I'm just pouring sweat. I'm a wreck, and went on like that for a couple of years. Man, our house, everything was going to shambles. Man, we had holes in our floors and our walls, roaches and rats. And then my wife confronted me one day on Christmas Eve when my daughter was 3 or 4 years old. She confronted me. She knew something was up, and then I was doing dope with her family members, and one of them finally, snitched me out and was like, yeah, he's on it bad. He's deep into this. And she confronted me. I came home, and she confronted me there at the door. She said, I know what you're doing. And I said, what you talking about? Played that dumb card. What you talking about? Yeah. She said, I know that you're doing meth, and I know you've been doing it for a while. She said, are you going to tell me the truth? And I was like, yeah. And instead of being a man, I said, you want to try it? That was the worst mistake I ever made in my life. The worst. I say the worst because, I chose to do all these things, but that right there was the worst, because I introduced her to it. And it really got bad. It got so bad we would stay locked up in the laundry room or the bathroom smoking dope, and our kids just run around doing God knows what. Come knock on the door, y'all through? And we're working on this, we're doing this. We'll be out in a little while for hours and hours. And then she got to that, she was instantly hooked, and it got to where I went from making money selling dope to being in debt because getting high on our own supply. And, man, God started speaking to me, and he was like, I've gave you so many chances, And I've only hit the crust of my story because we'd be here for hours. But there's so many chances I should have died. So many times I should have drowned. I'd come home off of a 3 or 4 day binge and pass out in the bathtub and almost drown so many times. And it's like God was just getting my attention. You know, I've gave you chances. I gave you chances. I mean, he was speaking to me. That still small voice. He was speaking to me. He's like, "You fixing to be out of chances." I'd lay there every night like my heart was just fixing to explode because I had done probably half a gram of meth, a gram of coke, drinking all day, this and that, and I mean my heart just all the time, and there's no telling what kind of wear and tear I'd done on my body over that 20-year period. And it finally, he got my attention one night, and he told me, he said, "This is it. It's now or never." And I surrendered right there, and I said, "I'm done. I begged and pleaded. I said, take this away from me. Take this taste of it, the want, everything." And we got up that next morning, and we went to church, and all I could do was just cry because I knew God had delivered me. I knew right then I had truly gave my life to Christ. And that was August the 1st was 10 years ago that happened. I haven't touched anything since.
Man, that's one of those situations where it doesn't always happen like that, but when it does, it is a walk-in miracle.
It is. And you know, when I tell people my story, they think, "Oh man, yes, it got better." No, it didn't. It got worse because my wife wasn't ready to quit, and for 2 years there, we lived in misery because I was walking it out for the Lord. Man, I was fired up and trying to live right, and she was still, and I knew she was, and I was trying to bring her in. I was trying to, and I got to that point where and then I was trying to fix it, and I realized I can't fix it. It's only God can fix this. And I told her one day, I said, "Look, either you can get some help, and get clean, whatever we need." I said, "I'm willing to do whatever we got to do to get you some help and get clean, or you're going to have to go." And she packed her stuff up and she left. And I took sole custody of the kids. She ran off with a dope man. For months she was gone. See her every once in a while. She had to have supervised visitation and stuff like that. Man, it was just horrible. And I went through a bad depression, and I was like, I questioned God, like, why? I said, I surrendered all this to you. Why is this happening? And I just one night I took my kids out to my dad, and I was like, I just need y'all to watch the kids for a while. I said, I can't right now. So, I was depressed. I'd already filed for divorce, everything, And I laid out there. Man, it was cold. It was like the last ice storm of Mississippi. I want to say it was 2012, 13, somewhere up in there. And I sat there in our trailer for 2 or 3 days, and I didn't eat. I was fasting and didn't even know it, man. I didn't eat. I was just talking to me and God, and I didn't have the heater running, nothing. I remember walking by the thermostat, and it said 18 degrees, and that was the only inside. And I was mad at God. I yelled at him. I screamed at him. I cried to him. And I came to a point where I just laid myself on the floor and screamed and kicked like a baby. And I said, I said, all right, it's yours, God. Do what you're going to do. I said, I'm giving it fully to you. I said, if you want us to be together, you'll make it happen. If not, you show me what I need to do. And that next morning, some people that I used to go to church with called me, and they said, "Do you want to go to a Newsboys concert with us?" And I was like, "Sure, why not?" So I loaded up with them. We went to that Newsboys concert in Kosciuszko, Mississippi. And, man, they was having if you've never been to a Newsboys concert, you're missing out. It's awesome. That drummer is awesome. But anyway, and they was having a time of prayer. And, man, the Spirit was moving, and we was praying. And I was praying for my wife, and I was praying for God. I need you to show me what decisions I need to make. And right after that, my phone went off, and it was my wife, and she said, "I'm ready. I want help." And that was divine intervention from God. And I didn't know at the time that at that time, same time, she was about to shoot up for the first time, and she was going to just overload herself and overdose and take her life up because she was in such a bad place. But God intervened, man. And I went that next day, and I went to the hotel room where she was at with the dope man, and I walked in there and I grabbed her and I said, let's go. And that old flesh in me, I wanted to act out on him, but I didn't. I walked in there, I got her, and I took her straight to a meeting, and she started going to meetings. And did she have a slip up? Yeah, she slipped up a couple times, but she just kept on getting back up until eventually she got it. And August the 14th, 8 years ago, she surrendered, and she's been clean ever since, man. And that's when God really took off in our lives. And we got in church, man. We started serving and just surrender our lives to the Lord and just letting him take over and let him lead, man. And he has I can't tell you how good it's been. The work that he has done in our lives, the doors he's opened, man, and it's a better high than anything this world can give you. And go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, you good. I was gonna just coincide with what you were saying, man. It doesn't, that's the best feeling in the world is, being inside the will of God. And so many of us that were in that lifestyle of addiction, when we find God and we get pulled out of that pit.
Yes.
And we know firsthand,
man.
That, and it's something.
Psalm 42, man. Psalm 42. I got
pulled out of the pit.
I got it tatted on my arm, man, because that's my verse that I stand on, man. He drew me out of that pit of destruction, out of that miry bog, and he set my feet on a solid rock, making my steps secure. He done that, man. I'll never forget it, what he done. And man, we started serving in the church, man. I became a greeter, and then eventually I became a Sunday school teacher. And I was like, this is crazy. I got a GED, dude. I know nothing about teaching, but God doesn't call the equipped; He equips the called. And man, I just couldn't believe I'm teaching Sunday school, and so I was like, okay, this is where God's got me, and I've done that for years. And then I just felt him just tugging me. I got something for you to do. And I was like. So I was part of a life group there at church, and I had all these people praying for me. I said, God's wanting me to do something. I don't know what it is. I mean, just pray. And I'd got a call from a lady. I called her. She was like one of my other my mamas, and me and her son had went through addiction together and recovery. And they had a benefit car ride for him down there. And anyway, she said, I want you to come and share your testimony. I said, okay. I went down there and I shared my testimony. And there was a lady, Miss Consuelo Wallace. She's over the Jones County Drug Court. She's down there. She said, I want you to come speak at the drug court. And I was like, okay. And I knew right then, I said, God, I see what you're doing. And so I went back and talked to my wife, and I was like, God wants us to start a ministry. She's like, okay. I was like, we're going to start a ministry and just tell people what God's done in our lives, for recovering addicts, and just. I said, I know that I got confirmation. That's what he wants me to do. So, man, we got our good friends, Jeff and Kenyon, and told them what God, had revealed to us and asked if they wanted help out. And they was like, yeah, we're on. And, man, we just started, we asked some different people that was part of ministries for, help and stuff like that, and they kind of ghosted us, like, I was like, okay. And we didn't know what we was doing. I have no clue. But we said, we're going to be obedient to God, and whatever, we're going to let the Holy Spirit lead this. And, man, we started out, and he just started opening doors, man. And then that was 3 years ago, man. We just celebrated our 3-year anniversary at Restoring the Broken. And, dude, he has just opened the floodgates, man, and just blessed it. And just, I can't sit here and describe to you in 2 days' time what I've seen him do. And it's nothing that we do. We're just being there. We're just willing vessels, man, and just see what he's done in people's lives.
I'm telling you, if you're in South Mississippi area, heck, if you're in the surrounding states, make the drive and visit Tank at Restoring the Broken. Like that group, I had the privilege of being there. Was it back in April?
Yes.
April, I think.
Yes.
And that is a very rowdy group. They are excited to be in recovery. Like
Yes.
that's all. It is a very excited bunch.
Yes, it is, man. I mean,
I'm telling you, man.
we when we started it, we was talking about what night we were going to meet, and my wife said Friday nights, and I was like, "Woman, are you crazy?" I said, "It tells you in the recovery Bible don't have meetings on Friday nights." She said, "We're going against the grain." She said, "When we was in addiction, when did we go out?" She said, "You get paid on Friday." She said, "We gonna give them a curve of
like
hey,
that.
let's start the weekend off like this." And I was like, "All right, let's do it." And man, I was like, old doubting Tom here. I was like, "This ain't gonna work." And man, when we started out, we had 15, 20 people show up. And, the first few meetings, it kind of dwindled down. We'd have like 10 or 15. And here in the last year, we average anywhere from 50 to 70 people every Friday night. And these people, they're excited about recovering. They're excited about Jesus, man. And we just love on them, and we pour into them, and we just share with them. And man, they get excited when we give out recovery bracelets at our meetings. And that's one of the rowdiest times. And we do that at the start of the meeting, and he gets amped up in there, man. When somebody picks up a bracelet, dude, they are cheering them on, man. And then we go into worship. And, man, these people love to worship Jesus and praise and worship, and we'll blow the roof off in that place.
Sounds like McGee, too. McGee was like that.
Yeah, we got some good friends over in McGee. They love recovery, too, man. We love them. Hey,
I went and spoke there, and it was, as soon as I ended, it erupted. And I was just like, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Man, and that's a good thing to have, man. Is people to be excited about and encouraged about it, man. And it's a recovery community,
right?
You have to, and things out. I mean, you notice a lot of things when you deal with different people. And everything. A lot of people have a competition mindset, but you got to have a kingdom mindset,
right?
Because the only person we're in competition with is the enemy, so Satan himself. We're all Team Jesus. You know what I'm saying? And that's what we got to get in our minds. Hey, the more you get plugged in community wise, the stronger a force we are to bring more people out of those pits.
Yep, that's right. So as we close out, I got to ask you, and I think I know the answer to this. What is some of the tools that you're using today to stay sober and to stay plugged into your recovery?
Man, restoring the broken is like my baby, and I stay plugged in with it. I stay plugged, and I sponsor different guys, and I'm pouring into them, and I stay plugged in at speaking at other places, and that helps hold me accountable. And about a year ago, God called me to preach, and man, that helps hold me accountable because I'm staying in His Word even more, studying and preparing sermons. And man, that's just you stay in God's Word, stay plugged in, and we lead a recovery ministry. We still go to meetings sometimes at other ones. You know what I'm saying? Hey, you don't ever stop going to meetings just because you don't never reach that level where all right, I'm good. No, that's what happens when you think I'm good. That's you get too confident and you'll fall off. You got to stay plugged in, man.
And also, I don't know about y'all, but I'm very fortunate to be the men's ministry leader of North Park Celebrate Recovery. When I'm at North Park Celebrate Recovery, I'm leading. I don't get a chance to participate.
Yes.
Sometimes I need a meeting.
That's right.
Where I can just go.
Be poured into, man.
Yeah, exactly. So sometimes I need that extra meeting as well, just like you were talking about. Sometimes I need to go find that outside of Celebrate Recovery, somewhere where I can just go in, walk through the door, sit down, and like you said, get poured into.
Yep.
And
you have to, because if you pour out so much, well, it gets to where you pour out and you're empty. You can't pour into other people with an empty vessel. You got to go back and get that vessel filled up. You know what I'm saying?
And how about that? Does that not tie into what we were just talking about in the parking lot before we started?
Yeah, buddy. That's how God works, dude.
Tank, I think we're on to something.
I think so. I do too. Dude, I don't believe in coincidences. I believe in God. I've seen so much here lately.
There's no coincidence.
There's no such thing as coincidence. I've seen, and it just becomes more evident every day. Just see how God does things, and it blows my mind still.
Most definitely. Well, Tank, we're gonna wrap this thing up. It has been an honor to have you on.
Oh man, the honor's all mine. Thank y'all for having me.
We could sit here for another 2 hours and talk this out, but I don't have the money for that. And so
I don't either.
So, but man, you know, I don't say this to everybody, but Tank, you are a lighthouse to those that are out there in the darkness of addiction. You are what it means to truly be unashamed. You know, you're out there in the trenches, pouring light out there to those in the darkness of addiction, and that's what it is. That's what it's all about. And man, we've loved having you on here. What is a good way for somebody to get in contact with you? Maybe somebody wants to come visit Restoring the Broken. Maybe somebody wants to come and have you speak at their recovery group. You know, we're friends with a bunch of other recovery podcasts. Maybe they want to have you come on their show. What's a good email?
Yeah,
they can reach you out.
Yeah, of course, we have our Facebook page, and they can message me on there. And you go to our Facebook page, it's got a number. That's my phone number on there. Or you can email me at rtbministries19@outlook.com. That's our email address, man. They contact me on there. I'd be glad to respond back.
And we will also have that email and the Facebook page for Restoring Broken in the show notes of this episode. So as you're listening to our soothing sounds and our voices, you know, you can scroll down into those show notes and you can get those links for their Facebook page. You can get the link for their email, you know, and have all that information there down in the show notes. You know, this is one of those episodes where I'm really glad that we went audio only, because I don't know if the three of us would be able to we would break the camera. Like, probably. The three of us do not have a face for TV. Like, we're built for radio.
Yes.
We're built for podcasts.
And this will be one of those episodes that I don't listen to because I can't stand my voice.
It's okay. I haven't listened to one single episode of Unashamed Recovery podcast, so it is okay, brother. Well, guys, that is all the time that we've got for today. We have enjoyed having Tank on, and we have enjoyed y'all listening. Thank y'all for your continued support of the podcast. You know, we've got our sponsors that help sponsor the show, but we also are thankful to our listeners that sponsor. You know, we have listeners that continue to donate to the show, and we're only here because of y'all. Thank you for your continued support of the show, and you can always reach out to us. Email us at unashamedpodcast@yahoo.com, unashamedpodcast@yahoo.com. And go over and visit on Facebook. We've got a nice Unashamed Recovery group where we are set up, and people are getting plugged in and networking and communicating together there and sharing daily sobriety tips. So find us there as well. And with that, that's all the time we've got. We love y'all. And until next time, I hope y'all continue to be unashamed.